Hello, friends. Today, I'm going to talk about an episode from the sci-fi series in the spirit of Black Mirror called Dimension 404. Our main character is Val Hernandez, a bold, up-and-coming gamer with the username Speedrun, who dreams of greatness. But her dreams seem out of reach for now, as it will require a lot of time and effort to achieve them. It's 2017. One day, Val's father, Carlos, sends her to a job interview at a diner. She promises to go, but her boyfriend is already waiting for her at the house, ready to pick her up in his car. The couple heads to a gaming tournament because if Val wins, she'll get $10,000 and finally be able to move out of her father's house. Her boyfriend informs her that her opponent will be none other than Kilohertz, the reigning champion of all tournaments. The players are ready, and it's time to start. Speedrun racks up points and climbs to the top of the leaderboard. Kilohertz wins the first round and the crowd goes wild. He high-fives his fans, then closes his eyes and takes out his opponents without even looking at the screen. Val doesn't back down. In the end, it's just the two of them left in the game. Victory is within Val's grasp. But then she veers off course. Val is determined to claim the trophy of glory. But Kilohertz sees through her. The match ends, and Kilohertz claims yet another victory. Still, Val makes it to the finals. She's baffled by how her opponent plays so effortlessly. Kilohertz, laughing, teases her before walking off to take selfies with his fans. While her boyfriend, Evan, steps away to get the car, a man named Kojima approaches Val, claiming he knows the secret to victory. Val is puzzled by the strange comment, but before she can say anything, Kojima hands her his business card and leaves. When Val gets home, she lies to her father. Carlos is furious. Not only did she skip the interview, but she also forgot about her grandmother, forcing him to take time off work, nearly costing him his job. She tells him the truth about where she was, which only angers him more. He orders her to go to the diner the next day and ask for an interview. However, Val tells him that the tournament finals are also the next day and that it's more important for her future. Carlos tries to explain that there is no future in online gaming and that she's being selfish, but Val stubbornly ignores him and goes to her room. Later, she watches a gaming podcast, notices Kojima's business card, and remembers what he said about the secret to victory. Fueled by a desire for revenge and victory, she decides to visit the address on the card. At a gaming cafe called the Golden Saucer, a few people are playing video games. Kojima invites her to play. Val, still confused as to why she's there, starts playing anyway, and immediately loses. Kojima hands her a bottle of an energy drink called Impulse 9. Val takes a small sip. Suddenly, everything around her starts moving in slow motion. As a result, the game that was once impossible now becomes incredibly easy. Then, out of nowhere, Val snaps back to reality, finding herself sitting at the table across from Kojima, who explains that Impulse 9 stretches time for the person who drinks it. An hour has passed since she took a sip. The duration of the slowed time depends on how much of the drink you consume. The price? $500 per bottle, leaving Val shocked. She thinks it's cheating, but then Roy calls, and she realizes that Impulse 9 is his secret too. That's why other gamers and experts call him unbeatable. After this revelation, Val decides to buy a bottle of Impulse 9. The next day at the tournament, Val pulls out the drink and places it next to her keyboard. Just before the game starts, she takes a small sip. With time now slowed, she dominates the leaderboard for a while. Seeing this, Roy also drinks some Impulse 9 and starts climbing the ranks, eventually reaching the top. Val becomes desperate and downs the entire bottle, determined to win no matter the cost. Time slows even more for Val, and she fully takes advantage of it. In the end, she kills Roy's avatar and wins the entire tournament. The crowd goes wild, cheering her name. Excited, Evan rushes over to congratulate her, not noticing the bottle of energy drink shattering on the floor. Suddenly, Val snaps back to reality and finds herself sitting in a dilapidated house holding a baby. Evan, now wearing tattered clothes, enters the room, tucks the baby into bed, and tells Val to get ready. Confused, Val is horrified to see her adult body and a wedding ring on her hand. She runs downstairs to catch her breath, only to be called Mom by two other children, which completely demoralizes her. Overwhelmed with shock, Val vomits and runs outside. But things get worse. She forgot her gas mask, and apparently, she can't breathe without it. It's the year 2037, and her husband, Evan, heads to work while she's tasked with picking the kids up from school. The neighborhood is in complete disarray. People live in tents, with public toilets out in the open, and everywhere impulsors, those who used Impulse 9, are blamed for ruining the world. They're seen as incapable people, unable to defeat the death lizards, and there's no place for them in the city. It turns out Val is the sheriff of this town. She has to pretend she understands what's going on, and she orders the exile of an impulsor beyond the city walls, which protect them from the dangerous creatures. The sirens blare, signaling an approaching storm. Val puts on her gas mask and heads home. She's still disoriented and unsure how to handle her children. To make things worse, she finds her father's ashes in an urn, which makes her break down in tears. But she reminds herself that she can overcome any challenge. She's called to duty in the public restrooms. It turns out one of her duties is to clean the filthy toilets for hours. And at night, she's burdened with household chores and looking after the kids. Days pass, and Val starts adapting to the customs of the apocalyptic society. One day, she picks the kids up from school, and her daughter Sophia gives her a drawing, calling her a hero. But Val is too exhausted to appreciate her daughter's effort. When she gets home, she finds Evan pedaling a bike to power their gaming console since there's no electricity. To Val's surprise, it's her favorite game, Firefield. Val is excited and agrees to play around before putting the kids to bed. After Evan leaves for work, Val and the kids keep playing. Hours pass, and suddenly, Evan bursts into the room in a panic, telling Val that she missed her guard shift at the gates. As a result, one of the residents didn't make it into the city and was killed by a death lizard. Guilt-ridden, Val tries to head home, but Evan tells her she still needs to finish her guard shift. Reluctantly, she complies. After her shift, Val returns home, and Evan comforts her. Feeling like she doesn't belong in this new world, Val decides to leave everything behind and venture into the wasteland. She writes Evan a letter and, the next morning, leaves home with no intention of returning. Evan reads the letter, in which Val admits that she's actually an impulsor. She recalls the tournament with Roy, which for her was only a week ago. Yesterday, she realized why the town sends impulsors to die. In civilized society, there's no place for a teenager trapped in an adult's body. She walks through the barren wasteland and eventually stumbles upon an abandoned building, which turns out to be Kojima's cafe. Val hesitantly enters the gaming cafe and looks around. To her surprise, Kojima jumps out from behind the counter, but he hasn't aged a day. Kojima realizes Val has just returned to reality and admits that many lives were ruined because of Impulse 9. But he offers her another bottle. He pulls out a large bottle and tells her she can take a sip and die, enjoying what she loves most. If she drinks it, she'll never return to this world, as she'll be traveling hundreds of years into the future. Val takes the bottle and asks him to set up Firefield, but as she leans forward to grab the bottle, she finds her daughter's drawing and remembers Evan's words. She returns to the town to reunite with her family, but Evan refuses to let her in. Val slips her daughter's drawing under the door, apologizes for everything, and promises to start over and make things right. Suddenly, they hear gunshots and realize the death lizards are approaching the town. It turns out the death lizards are actually a group of cannibalistic humans who prey on others. The townspeople are ready to flee, as their sheriff has been revealed as an impulsor. Val tries to convince them to stay and organize a defense. She asks Evan to take the kids and head for the canyon while she holds the gates as long as she can. Val grabs a large bottle of Impulse 9 and prepares for battle. The death lizards breach the gates, ready to wreak havoc. It turns out their leader is none other than Roy, who reveals that he returned to reality years ago and has since become a ruthless warlord who can kill anyone he wants. But despite his threats, Val fights back. She throws an empty bottle of Impulse 9 at him, revealing that she had already drunk it before the enemies arrived and had entered slow motion mode. A brutal firefight ensues, and Val manages to take out nearly all of them. Unfortunately, she is wounded in the stomach and shoulder before collapsing. Roy tries to shoot Val, but misses. She fires back and successfully kills Roy. In her final moments, she fires a flare, signaling to Evan that the town is saved. Evan sees the bright red flash as Val slowly dies. And that's the end of the episode. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to support us by liking and subscribing.